swear, every time we played these guys, I get to say the same thing. But I guess when you're just better than a division rival, it comes with the territory, as the Vegas Golden Knights win the second game of the regular season, win their second game in a row over the San Jose Sharks by, again, final score of 4-1. We seem to really enjoy this score. Now, this video is going to be very similar to the one from the last game, where in that there isn't going to be a lot of jump cuts, there's not going to be a lot of editing. Well, not because I'm not watching the game, because trust me, I'm watching the game, but things have been a little bit nutso here because, it's not a well-kept secret. I'm a grad student, and so I spend 90% of my time watching the games like this. Woo! Yeah! Okay, where was I? Kind of missed watching hockey. I had to spend all of the preseason studying, and I had to spend the last 2 games of the regular season studying. Yay. Gosh, I said there was going to be like no jump cuts, and yet there's been like 4 of them. I can't even keep my own word right now. But anyway, back to the matter at hand. The Golden Knights topping the San Jose Sharks by a score of 4-1. We seem to love scoring 4, but this time, there wasn't an empty netter. And this time there was actually some very interesting storylines, as this wasn't the usual Golden Knights rock up into SAP Center, blow out the Sharks, and then go home. Although, for all intents and purposes, that's exactly what happened. The first period, again, got off to a very slow start for the Golden Knights. That seems to be a trend, especially early in this year, and it was definitely the case in the preseason. Start off a little bit slow, get outplayed by a vastly inferior San Jose Sharks team, but then, as the period went, it started to build, and it started to build, and it started to build, and ultimately the Golden Knights were able to get a nice rush into the zone and create a little bit of chaos, as they like to do. The third line has been a little bit of a mess this early on in the year, and it was only chucked further into disarray following the injury of Will Carrier and the suspension of Brett Howden for the next 2 games. So that means that Pavel Dorofeyev and Paul Cotter both are in the lineup now, and Jonas Rondbjerg got called up from the Henderson Silver Knights to fill Will Carrier's vacant spot on the 4th line. He played very good throughout this game. Actually, all of them played very good, and so they're all doing a very good job keeping themselves in the NHL and allowing the Golden Knights to continue to bag points when they absolutely need to. More on one of those filler players later. He had a night to remember. But ultimately, Michael Amadio would kind of find himself in a position where he had the puck, and he would give the puck to William Karlsson, who would cycle it around the net. And I don't know what was going on, but one of the Sharks defenders decided to pin Braden Paul against the post. And what that does is it creates a little bit of a roadblock for one San Jose Sharks goalie, and ultimately Karlsson wraps around the net, finds Amadio out front, and Amadio shoots it into what is essentially a wide open net to give the Golden Knights a 1-0 lead. Amadio's first goal of the year, of course. However, this lead wouldn't be as comfortable as one would usually expect when we're playing the San Jose Sharks on the road and scoring first, as the Sharks would actually come back and tie the game with about 2.5 minutes to go in the first period, as Filip Zadina would capitalize on just a crazy fluky bounce. Neither Golden Knights goalie, whether it be Adin Hill or Logan Thompson, have gotten beat on a clean shot or a clean play the whole season. As similar to what happened with McCann in the San Jose game, or not the San Jose, in the Seattle game on Tuesday, is what happened to Logan Thompson here, as the puck just bounced weirdly and found its way into the low slot off of a just crazy shot pass that hit a Sharks player way off to the side and kicked out right to the front. And ultimately, Zadina was able to spin around from backhand to forehand and shoot it. And I'm not sure whether or not it hit Nick Hague on the way by, but what mattered is that it got into the net. And it was 1-1, and that's where the period would end. The Golden Knights looked okay. They looked solid. They looked well, calm, cool, collected, and composed, as they're, supposed to. However, that doesn't exactly give the world's greatest confidence because it's the Sharks. I know it was their home opener, and they're going to be playing with a little bit more fire because of that fact, but it's still a little bit mildly frustrating that we weren't able to run away with this game like we usually do. That wouldn't happen until much later, as the large chunk of the second period wasn't actually that busy. The Golden Knights keep getting themselves into penalty trouble. They did in the first period, and they did again in the second period. They kept taking penalties and having to kill penalties, and ultimately weren't super successful on the few power plays they got. But as time wound down, the Golden Knights actually started to mount some offense, and ultimately the ice would wind up tipping in favor of the Golden Knights as the long change got more and more pronounced. And after setting up a little bit of offensive zone time, Nick Hague would be able to one-time it basically through Kakinen and in to give the Golden Knights a 2-1 lead with around a minute to go. And at that point, I was fairly happy now that the Golden Knights were able to reestablish the lead. And ultimately, Nick Waugh was able to further my happiness about the situation, as just a few seconds after Nick Hague just scored, like on the next possession, essentially, he walks into the net, or walks into the offensive zone, and just snipes it past Kakkonen with about 30 seconds to go, basically extending the lead to 3-1, and the Golden Knights would not look back from there. They continue to play solid. They continue to play hard, nice, structured hockey. They'd start to dial back on the penalties, thank goodness. And ultimately, I was a little still concerned about the empty net situation going into the third period, knowing what happened on Tuesday against the Kraken. However, Braden Pahal, whom I was a little bit worried about at the start of this season, given that he's young, and he just got stripped of his captaincy in Henderson, not because he did anything wrong, but because the idea is he's going to be spending a lot of time in the NHL this year. So again, congratulations, Jake Bischoff, being the new captain of the Henderson Silver Knights. However, the guy you replaced just had his career-defining moment to this point, as early on in the third period, Braden Pahal would get a pass in some open space on the far side of the ice. I don't know where the rest of the Sharks' defense core went, and he was able to wrist it past Kakkonen for his first career NHL goal in what was one of his first 10 NHL games, and his second game of this regular season. He keeps putting up numbers like that, he'll win the Norris Trophy. However, it's an exciting moment for him. I could not imagine how exciting it would be to score a goal at the NHL level, especially for a team coming off of that, basically playing for the team that just put your name on the Stanley Cup for playing one game last postseason against the best offensive team to ever play hockey. But with that being said, that's where the game would kind of settle down, and ultimately that's where the game would end, as the Golden Knights would defeat the San Jose Sharks 4-1. Now, there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue around this game. Fortunately, nobody's getting suspended. Doesn't look like anybody got injured. But the first line looked very good, even though they didn't really account for anything on the score sheet. The lines are still a little bit jumbled up, but Jonas Rondbjerg is out on the penalty kill for large chunks of that game. He looked very solid on the penalty kill. He's a very good defensive forward. He has been for many years for the Golden Knights, especially getting called up in the last two injury-rocked seasons for this organization. He's been a nice, consistent player, which is very good to see. Again, also, Pavel Dorofeev looked very good. He still hasn't scored yet this year. He hasn't really factored in on the score sheet yet, but his day is coming. He's playing very well right now. He's playing good hockey, and it's really hard to complain about what he's doing because he's doing most things right. It's a little bit easier to complain about Paul Cotter because he keeps taking penalties, and he's become, the new Lucas Cormier from the preseason. I ragged on that guy so much for taking so many penalties, but ultimately he's just not quite fit in. He played better this game. He played a lot better this game, but he still needs to be a little bit better because once everybody's healthy again, it'll be back down between him and Dorofeev for who gets to be the last young guy on the roster. And with so much youth in Henderson, and I'd imagine they're going to get off to a hot start, given that I believe they play their first game right now as of the time of recording this. They're on the ice right now. What's insane is that there is a world where Cotter or Dorofeev will not be part of this organization very soon, because they will, they'll try to get sent down to Henderson and they'll get claimed, which isn't ideal for anyone involved, given that we like both of those players from an organizational standpoint. But ultimately, the Golden Knights continue to get off to their very good start. Both the goalies have given up one goal and have a nice, comfortable margin of victory. What's amazing about that is, even with that, if the Vancouver Canucks win, we still won't be in first place because they decided to put an 8 spot up on the Oilers, who have now given up back-to-back natural hat tricks. Something about defense wins championships. I wouldn't know anything about that, would I? I wouldn't know anything about that. But ultimately, it's another happy day. The next game for the Golden Knights is on Saturday. Very exciting. Another game back at the Fortress. I believe it is against the Anaheim Ducks or the Dallas Stars. Both of those teams are coming to town in the next 2 games. I just can't remember off the top of my head which order they're in because, frankly, school is hard and I'm a little bit on the fried side. But it's okay. The Golden Knights are winning. It's a happy time for everybody. And it's a great time. Hockey season is back. It's super exciting. I've watched nonstop hockey, even though I've, been supposed to be studying. And I have been studying, but I tune in and I tune out and then I tune back in. And I always root against the Kings and against the Oilers because that's just what you do when you are the class of the field in the Pacific Division and you worry about those guys catching you. But ultimately, 2-0 start for the Golden Knights, looking to bounce back and do what they did last year, winning 11 of the first 13. So far, we're off to a good start. That being said, thank you for watching. I'm not sure if I enjoy making this new type of like long form single cut video, but it's something that I had to do because I haven't really had the time to be funny, and frankly, I'm just so cooked out that I don't even know what's funny anymore, and I didn't watch enough of the games to pick up on the little moments, but I got the big stuff, and I was able to articulate it in a way that I feel good enough about. I made a promise to you guys at the start of this year that I'd try and do a video regardless of whether or not I thought it was good, and the last 2 videos have been a little bit of an indicator as to where I'm at right now. But you guys are showing up, you guys are watching, and I'm very appreciative of that fact. So thank you for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed this kind of content. Comment down below if you want to interact with me, if you want to talk about how the season's going, or whether or not you want to fire Paul Cotter out of a cannon. Subscribe if you really enjoyed it. Tell all your friends. Post it on social. I'm trying to get into that. I don't know. But I will catch you guys very soon in the next one.